The Philadelphia Phillies are back in the win column after a 4-2 victory over the Miami Marlins last night on Wednesday. They did lose Tuesday night to snap that 5-game win streak they were on, but the Phillies are right back to their winning ways. They have taken 2 of the first 3 games of this 4-game series against the Marlins down there in Miami. They wrap it up tonight on Thursday. Now, this win last night did not come easy for the Phillies by any means necessary. It was a close game, obviously, and it really came down to that final 9th inning. The Phillies had a 4-1 lead going into the bottom of the 9th inning. They brought in Matt Strahm for the save opportunity. Now, Matt Strahm has had his fair share of struggles in 2025 after having a dominant all-star season last year for the Phillies in 2024. He just hasn't had the same success, hasn't been that same pitcher we were used to seeing from him. And it really continued last night against the Marlins. He got the job done ultimately, but it wasn't pretty for Matt Strahm. He allowed a leadoff double to start the bottom of the 9th inning, and then 2 batters later, an RBI single to make it a 4-2 game. And then, he allowed another single 2 batters later after that, so it was first and second with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th inning and a 4-2 Phillies lead. The Marlins brought in Nick Fortes to pinch hit there with 2 outs, 2 runners on. He was the game-winning run if he was able to launch a ball into the seats and lose, and he would win that game for his team. The Phillies would lose. Luckily, now before I get into what happened, if you remember, Phillies right fielder Nick Castellanos, he was benched on Monday he was benched on Tuesday against the Miami Marlins for inappropriate comments he said to Phillies manager Rob Thompson after being replaced defensively in Monday's ball game against the Marlins. Now, Nick was definitely not happy with that decision. He's the kind of guy that always wants to play. He's always out there. He's always starting for the Phillies. So it was just a very odd situation for him. Unfortunate situation for him and the team. But Rob Thompson needed to make an example out of it. You can't just go around disrespecting. We still don't know what he said, but you can't just go around saying whatever you want to say, disrespecting your coaches, your teammates, the fans, or anything, umpires, other teams. And Rob Thompson decided the best decision there, the best punishment was to sit his right fielder, Nick Castellanos. The Phillies lost that ball game without him, but Nick Castellanos back in the lineup. He was producing at the plate last night in Wednesday's win over the Marlins. And then defensively, obviously, he made the game-winning catch out there in right field. Nick Castellanos made a leaping grab at the right field wall that Nick Fortes smoked out there, gave it a ride. And it was just a fitting end for the Phillies with Nick Castellanos making an incredible defensive play after he was benched for making an inappropriate comment after being replaced defensively in that ball game on Monday. It was great to see from Nick Castellanos. He's been a good fielder for the Phillies. Honestly, he's known for his offense throughout his career, but he's been pretty good for the Phillies, especially these past couple years out there in right field. So just a really fitting end, like I said, just because of all what happened and why he was benched the other day for his defensive reasons. Just the bigger thing that came out of that ball game is Matt Strahm's inconsistency, as I hit on earlier in this video. He could have easily blown that game for the Phillies if Nick Castellanos wasn't able to come up with that catch. 1 run definitely would have scored for the Marlins to make it a 1-run game, 4-3. 2 runners would be on in scoring position on second and third most likely. Who knows, depending on how that ball rolled off the wall, hit off the wall, maybe both of the runners could have scored to tie up that game. Luckily, that did not happen. We don't have to worry about that, and we're sitting here talking about another Phillies win. Thanks to Nick Castellanos for making that great play out there in the 4th inning. Definitely a heart-racing finish, heart-stopping finish for the Phillies, but they got the job done, and they are back looking to take the series win against the Marlins tonight on Thursday. One of the main reasons, I won't say the main, is, obviously didn't really need much production, I guess, all game long, because the 4th inning is all they really needed. Now, the Phillies scored all 4 of their runs in that 4th inning against the Marlins. JT Realmuto hit an RBI single in that fourth inning. Bryson Stott came up big and hit a 3-run home run right after JT Realmuto's RBI single. Gave the Phillies a 4-0 lead, and obviously they won 4-2. So that fourth inning is all the Phillies needed to beat the Marlins. They scored all their runs, had really all their offensive production right there in the fourth inning. Obviously, you would like to see more production each and every inning throughout a ball game, but a win is a win. They got the job done there in the fourth inning. They picked up the win, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. Ranger Suarez took the mound for the Phillies against the Marlins last night on Wednesday in that ball game, and he has continued his dominance on the mound for the Phillies as a starting pitcher this year. Now, we all know that he had an all-star season last year in 2024. That was mainly because of his terrific and just impressive start to this season. His first half of the season, he was incredible. His second half of the season, just really, really struggled. He battled a back injury, which could have, hampered him a little bit. But it was really night and day for Ranger Suarez between the first half of the season and the second half of the season. You can really even say his struggles went back to the first half of the season, the end of the first half of the season, into the second half of the season. He was just really bad to make it, be directly with you guys. You guys all saw him if you were watching the Phillies last year. Just wasn't very good. But you could say this is a revenge tour for Ranger Suarez this year in 2025. Since he's returned from injury to start the season this year, he has been right up there with the best of the pitchers in all of Major League Baseball, definitely the National League. He's one of the Phillies, if not the Phillies' most consistent starting pitchers right now in 2025. He went 7 innings last night in Wednesday's ball game against the Marlins. Allowed just 4 hits. He had 2 walks. He allowed just 1 earned run in those 7 innings, and he had 8 strikeouts plus the win against the Marlins. He is now 6-1 with a 2.20 ERA through his first 9 starts in 2025. Impressive stuff out of Ranger Suarez. He's now pitched and gone through 7 innings 5 times in his 9 starts in 2025. So he's going deep into ball games, getting the job done. And of those 5 times that he went 7 innings, he's gone 3 straight appearances, 3 straight starts, pitching 7 innings for the Phillies, including last night's ball game. Now he's in a contract year this year, so the Phillies are going to have a decision to make whether they, bring out their wallets, back up the brink trucks, and pay Ranger Suarez, who has had a lot of success in his career. He's going to make a lot of money. Other teams out there are going to pay him a lot of money if he hits the open market. He's likely going to walk, in my honest opinion, because the Phillies have other needs. The Phillies have other starting pitchers in the rotation making a lot of money, set to make a lot of money, like Jesus Luzardo, and their young guys like Mick Abel and Andrew Painter are obviously vying and obviously deserve opportunities to be in this starting rotation long term. So Ranger Suarez might be the odd man out, and it might just not make sense for the Phillies to pay him a lot of money. This could be the last of Ranger Suarez, but if he's pitching great, that's really all the Phillies need for this year alone. They're trying to win a World Series, and Ranger Suarez can be a huge piece if he continues this dominance on the mound. Now, let's get into the end. Like I said in other videos, we've been talking a lot about trade rumors, trade targets as we near this July 31st trade deadline. One of the biggest names on the trade market, potentially most likely, is Chicago White Sox center fielder Luis Robert Jr. Now, you may remember from last year's trade deadline, he was pretty much at the center of trade rumors throughout all Major League Baseball. He was a young center fielder with previous success. The Phillies were linked to him a lot last year, even through the offseason. And now, again, as we near this trade deadline, Luis Robert Jr. is in trade discussions, trade rumors. The Phillies are linked to him once again because they have a weakness in the outfield. Obviously, the White Sox didn't end up trading Luis Robert Jr. last year, but should they trade him this year? They had a historically bad season last year in 2024, if you remember. They are a bottom 2 team this year in 2025. It might make sense to finally part with their center fielder that they had high hopes for the future. He was supposed to be a franchise piece, a franchise player for them, but they're just very bad. he's in his prime, entering his prime years. It might make sense to finally part with Luis Robert Jr. If you're the White Sox. Get a haul for him. He's under contract, has years of club control left. Like I said, he's a center fielder. He's 27 years old, so he's still young. He's a right-handed hitter. He was the 2020 American League Rookie of the Year runner-up. He's a one-time All-Star, a one-time Silver Slugger, and a one-time Gold Glover throughout his career. He has dealt with injuries throughout his career as well, which has hindered his development, has hindered his overall success in the White Sox lineup, and just trajectory to the top of the offensive playmakers in Major League Baseball. He has had a lot of success in the past. He hit 38 home runs back in 2023, so the power is there for Luis Robert Jr. if everything's going good for him, if he's healthy. He did have a pretty down year in 2024. He hit just 224 with 14 home runs and 35 RBIs in 100 games for the White Sox, and he's having another down season at the plate in 2025 so far. He's batting just 190 with a 275 on-base percentage, a 305 slugging percentage, and a 580 OPS. He has only 6 home runs in 65 games for the White Sox in 2025, but the speed's there. The defense is still there. He has 21 stolen bases already, and those 21 stolen bases mark his third consecutive season with 20 or more stolen bases. So obviously he's got above average elite speed. Like I said, he's also got above average elite defense. He has a career 990 fielding percentage in Major League Baseball. And of all of his appearances in the field, they've all come in center field throughout his Major League career with the White Sox, other than some days here and there where he's a designated hitter, but he's pretty much set in stone in the lineup every day as the White Sox center fielder. I'm sure he could be used in left field and right field if a team needs him to do that, like the Phillies. He can fit right in there in center field if the Phillies were to trade for him. Obviously, they don't have anybody special there. Johan Rojas, Brandon Marsh, So Luis Robert Jr. could just be plugged right into there, be an everyday guy for them there. Probably could play some left field in that platoon with Max Kepler this year. Now he does also have a 994 fielding percentage in 2025, so he's having another incredible season in the field. He has just one error out there. He is making $15 million this year in 2025, and he has 2 more years of $20 million club options in 2026 and 2027. So he is a high-priced player, not necessarily as high-priced as others that we know of, but still takes a good chunk out of your payroll. Luis Robert Jr. does, but he is a great fielder. He has above average speed. He's still young. He's got proven offensive ability. As I said, 38 home runs just a few years ago. Before he dealt with a lot of injuries, he was, hitting well at the plate, getting the job done, producing runs, hitting extra base hits. So he's got really everything you want in a player, and a change of scenery could be exactly what Luis Robert Jr. needs to get his career back on track, to elevate his career and just really put him into that next level of talent at the Major League level. And playing for a contender could definitely help with a better lineup of guys to hit around you and all of that. A lineup of Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, Alec Boehm, all those guys. It could really just help Luis Robert Jr. settle into a lineup, have better opportunities at the plate to produce for his team. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Henley. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content right here on Phillies Daily. Let's get this series win, and as always, go Phils.